Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Crypto Hour, Friday, the 5th of June, and what we could describe a challenging week in the crypto markets. So lots of red everywhere. So we'll go in and have a look at what's happening and what it can mean and what it can mean just at the moment and also going forward. So, generally speaking, we can say that there has been I don't know if you listen to the kind of investment news, you know that there's some big companies that are coming to the market, or Anthropic, SpaceX. It's going to be some big OpenAI. So some big, very topical investments they're coming to the market. They have attracted a lot of attention and a lot of the risk capital as well. So where part of the what we see in the crypto market can be due to simply market rotation from previous investors in crypto. Some of it is crypto related. So let's go and have a look at the usual analysis of the market. Let me share my screen. Okay. Okay, can you guys see my screen? Yeah. Okay, very good. So, as usual, let's start from the macroeconomic picture. So, is there anything that came up this week in particular from the market? Not so far. Nothing that is concerning so much or surprising coming from the markets at the moment. So just a normal week in terms of economic announcements and nothing too major. The one thing that obviously everybody will be watching is today's non-farm payroll, which is kind of released at the opening of Wall Street, which is again is 1:30 p.m. In sorry, 2:30 p.m. in London time. Let me just adjust my clock here. It's just slightly different, so it's just slightly off. Okay, so that's now is displaying the correct time. Sorry, apologies for that. So, so yeah, what we're gonna hear at like 2:30 p.m. London time, or at the opening on of Wall Street, is the non-farm payroll. So just I remind you that this is important because it has a direct effect on interest rates in the US, because the Fed has a double mandate of keeping the inflation under control, and the target rate is between 2% and 2.5%, and also keep the job market working well. So at the moment, we have a kind of uncertainty in both the job market, kind of interest rates, and we have a new Fed chair that is still has to chair the first meeting. So we are waiting to hear what his stance will be on this, and part of the decision that will be made from the kind of for the next meeting forward will be determined as well by how depending on the health of the job market. So this is particular relevant today, because it can change the market expectation of changes in interest rate. Okay, so also let's go and have a look at next week. So we have inflation numbers again, CPI numbers, and we start the kind of the interest rate series of meetings with the Canadian dollar, and then the euro the day after, on so Wednesday and Thursday. And those are the main announcements of the week. So inflation in the US, so on Wednesday, and then Wednesday and Thursday, Canadian dollar and euro interest rates setting. Now, this is interesting because where Canadian dollars is expected to stay at the same level, so the market expects the ECB to actually increase interest rates in the eurozone. Okay, so and this is kind of like a debate at the moment because what do central banks do to combat inflation? And because inflation at the moment is not being caused by um, by market activity in the sense of prices are not rising because people are buying a lot of stuff. They are rising because the costs of producing stuff is going up because of high oil costs. So it's some countries are taking the approach of, well, whatever the reason, we're fighting inflation anyway, and this is the reason for increasing interest rates like this. Some countries are adopting more of a wait and see scenario because they're thinking, well, people are not spending more. They just like spending more because they want to consume more of their savings or more of their wealth. They are spending more simply because things cost more and they're buying essential items. So sometimes in certain cases, increasing interest rate can put extra pressure onto people's pockets and have a bad effect on the whole economy. So we remains to be seen now, which approach is the right one, and we'll see which areas fare better. The ones that have increased interest rates or the ones that have kept the interest rates the same. So, but it's interesting to notice. We know the Australian dollars have started putting interest rates up. The pound has stayed the same. The US dollar that's pretty much stayed the same with the Canadian dollar. And now the euro is the first one of the main economies apart from Japan, which is a case, completely different case, has actually started raising interest rates. So yeah, it's time to actually be observant and see how things react to this movement. Now, let's go and take some pain now. Let's go and have a look at Let's go and have a look at Bitcoin and the whole crypto market. So as we can see here, if you look on the right-hand side, if you look at my watch list, it's a sea of red, completely, and this is just for today, but we can see from Monday, Bitcoin has lost double figure amounts. So we are now at minus 15% roughly, okay, at the moment. And we touched it, earlier on today, which kind of we've gone down to minus 17% on the week. So it's a really big drop. At the moment, it's almost like, last week we were talking around that time, we are saying, well, prices have come down in Bitcoin, but there is no panic in the market. Now we see the effects of kind of like a bit of panic hitting the market, and we're getting close to the yearly low at $60,000 exactly. So I assume if we break that, if we breach that level, then there's going to be another cascade of liquidations that can, push the price down fairly quickly. So I was kind of like trying to do an analysis and thinking, okay, let's look at recent history of the recent cycles that we have seen. So there was like the 2017, 2018 high was at just short of $20,000. And then as we during the cycle that followed, prices went up all the way to 69,000 and then dropped back to 15 and a half. So if you just see the distance between the previous high and the cycle low, in the past cycle, we went within about 20%, 21.5% of the previous cycle high. Okay, so we breached that level by about 21.5%. Now, if we can apply that to the current move, So obviously we see that during this cycle we had a high at 126, and now at the moment we are in the kind of like in the bear market. So where Bitcoin is dropping, and we're trying to guess, okay, up to which point will it drop? So we are now below the previous high because the 2021 high was at roughly at 69,000. Now, if we apply the same distance from the previous high as we reached in the previous cycle, that takes us to about 54,000, $54,000. Okay, so we still and it kind of like it would make sense at that point because it would be there are lots of stops below 60,000. So if we breach that, then it could quickly move down to even below that. But just to give us an idea of what happened in the past and what could be repeated now in the next few weeks. In terms of timing, as we can see, around November is when we are seeing the bottoms in the past couple of cycles. Okay, so this is where we could get the buying opportunities around that. If we have to follow the 4-year cycles, we can see. So we are here 2018, 2022, and then where will this take us in 2026? Will it take us to this point, or we don't know? Will it stay, or will this hold and be at this point? It remains to be seen, right? If we just aimed it at what happened in the previous cycle, then we would practically drop another 7,000-8,000 from here. Now, looking at the charts and thinking, where would it make sense that the market actually turns around is actually could be a lot lower than that. Because if you look at technical analysis, then the area that we see that where we uh, that led to the move that broke the previous high is down here. So between 43 and 38,000. And also that coincides with the level of Bitcoin when the ETFs were launched in January 2024. So the kind of almost like two reasons sit behind this level. So we could. So I'm not saying necessarily nobody has the crystal ball to see where this will stop. And we have seen already a little pushback from the low that we reached this morning of about 61,000. We're now close to 63. But if you look left, there isn't much here to inspire trust as a place where to go long. Okay, so there is a little area here maybe, but it's not very particularly strong for a big move. But the market is reacting to this as we speak, which goes between 60, basically about 61.3 and 59,000. So you can see, and it is the area that was just touched this morning. This morning, and the market has bounced up by about 1,500 from there. So at the moment we are reacting with this, but I don't expect this to be a really strong area where there's lots of demand will accumulate. So there could be some defensive play from people that have placed their stop behind this. They're trying to basically go back into not only make profit from the money that they put into now, but also defend the previous position that they established. But there have been a lot of longs being liquidated recently. Okay, so this is my kind of like analysis from what I can see, from what I can see in the markets at the moment. So this, you could see this as an area where, again, the move they actually led to breaking the 100,000 mark, and you wouldn't be wrong in that. Whether it is enough to actually terminate this downtrend that we're seeing right now and break to create another uptrend, that would, you know, we would need to stop here pretty much, or where we are, or below, before we get to 60,000, and then create another high above 82,000. So there's quite a big distance, quite a big distance for now. And at the moment, what the market is telling us is that you know, the um the downtrend is it's ruling at the moment. So this is the current trend that we can observe. I just need to move this because it's not okay. So you can see, so this is the movement so far, and now we're just waiting to see if this current move does what is expected in a downtrend, which will mean just go down lower and create a new lower low, or if he turns around here and decide that instead is not going to make a lower low, it makes a higher low, because at the moment, although we dropped to 61, is above the previous low of 60,000, and then create another leg up that breaks these 82,000. So the moment is into kind of like wait and see mode. We either move below 60,000, or we turn around and we go and test, see if we can break this 82.7 level. Now, if you look at this is all red. The only green, the only really green things is that the Bitcoin dominance, which again, when there are problems, let me just get rid of this. When there are problems in crypto, then Bitcoin. So this is what it tells you. Though Bitcoin has dropped a lot, all other crypto coins have dropped more than Bitcoin. So Bitcoin represents a higher percentage now of the crypto market cap than it did a couple of days ago. So so that means that since Monday. Since Monday, actually, all coins have done slightly better. But after, Wednesday and Thursdays, sorry, Thursday and Fridays, we've seen that again, the all coin drop has actually accelerated. And now Bitcoin is moving up in terms of how much of the crypto market cap they represent. So, what are the um, kind of what's the play here? To go back, we can have a look as well at as you can see, the altcoins. So this is all the altcoins on the market apart from the top 10. So I'll say the smaller projects. So you take away the Cardanos, the kind of BNB, XRP, and so on, at the top 10 coins. And you can see now that it was like trending gently up literally until a couple of days ago. Okay, and now it's kind of like broken through and broken this trend line quite significantly. So again, are we going to create a new low, even going below the February low, or are we still moving into a range and turning it around? I suppose the next couple of days will tell us what is happening. But in terms of kind of opportunities, you see that's kind of like in a way, all coins haven't grown as much as Bitcoin, but technically speaking, they are still they are still in an uptrend. The uptrend hasn't been broken yet. has been touched, but hasn't been broken yet, which is strange to see because they all dropped significantly since 2024 when there was like the halving event in Bitcoin. Now, what's the opportunity? Oh, sorry. What's the opportunity here is like if you have got funds and you're thinking, should I then, put some funds into crypto now or not? At the moment I will, really, I will keep my powders dry because normally, when we get to this end of the cycle, we expected almost like the bear market to end sometimes towards the end of the summer. Okay, so I expect this to turn around until maybe September, October time, at the earliest. So I would personally wait for it to drop more before getting back in. Um, this is a place down here is a place where I would be happy to put like a set and forget order, just to buy some Bitcoin at that level, because if it drops, that would mean an extra 30% drop of Bitcoin price from here, which will make it, really cheap from a cycle point of view, and then that could represent a really good profit potential if we then move into another bull cycle as we normally do if we follow the 4-year cycle. And it could mean like, again, from 40, around 40, the 40,000 level, it could mean like making 3, 4, 5 times your money, if and when the market reaches a new high. So so that would be kind of like my analysis of this. So in the short term, there is like a really short-term opportunity here, pretty much at the 61,500 level. But it's almost like trying to catch a falling knife right now. So if you do enter this, just be very careful because it would mean really entering and exiting pretty quickly. Like if you got into the trade at this level this morning, I would have been already out of it by now. Okay, so taking like a couple of $1,000 of quick profit and then leaving again. But at the moment we can't. Although we might think logically whatever we want to think, but at the moment the chart doesn't lie. Okay, and it's telling us that the down move is strong and accelerating. Okay, until such time as we are proven something else is happening. So again, maybe so the first thing that we will need to see. Sorry, let me cancel this. The first thing that we need to see, it's a new higher some stage. So where is this the closest point where you can see a reversal is, if we go all the way down to the 1 hour chart, we can see now, with this can be considered like a double bottom. Okay, so you can see at 3 o'clock this morning, sorry, 3 o'clock on Thursday last night, we reached this point, sorry, Thursday morning, and then again on this just a couple of hours ago at 7 o'clock in London time. So to consider this a double top, a double bottom, a possibility, the first thing that we need to see is to move back about this point, about 60, 64, 64.7. So if we move back to about 65, then we could consider a little retracement as an opportunity to then go long for a few days. But so this is a long, at the moment, what is controlling this downtrend on a daily basis, as you can see, there is no respite from this. The last retracement that we had was up here at 74.5. So if we were to say we just wait for a retracement to confirm that we are now, fighting against this downtrend, the confirmation it's far away, really, really far away from current price. Okay, so confirmation will come at 75,000 and above. So it's not really a setup that we can um, action straight away. The only immediate setup we have is this one that I highlighted in the chart, which goes back to October 2024. Okay, which was basically a little area of demand that precedes the big move that actually established a new all-time high and went all the way to test and go beyond 100,000. Okay, so that was touched Thursday morning and again a few hours ago. So maybe just the only practical play at the moment will be to wait for this small confirmation, so price to move about 65,000, and then you will follow it on a short time frame, like the 15 minutes or the 1 hour. So what you would have to wait is for price to close above 65,000, 64.7, and then have a look at what demand structure may be formed between now and then. So there could be one that's actually forming right now. If price carries on going up from here, we could have here a little demand zone like this. And so then the idea would be the price from here goes up, comes down and tests this, and this will be the entry, the entry point that we could have. But there is no confirmation at the moment. So at the moment, if you say, well, I buy Bitcoin now, why wait until it goes back up and comes down? Because of confirmation. So it's a safer option. You could do it right now, but it's pretty much a gamble. It's almost like tossing a coin and thinking, well, will it go up, will it go down? Okay. Any questions so far?
Luca, what does Michael Saylor do?
Sorry, what
He,
did
he
Michael Saylor do?
yeah, he did sell some
Yeah. So Michael
Bitcoins,
Saylor
even
just
though he said he
basically
would never sell.
he announced the fact that they say, well, we might, so we're not. He said we're not like married to just the one strategy. So if we are like a treasury, we're going to be able to buy and sell Bitcoin. So they did a test, a little Bitcoin sale of about 30 Bitcoins. So it wasn't a lot. It wasn't a lot. And they tested the market. So the market actually took it like negatively. I think, oh, MicroStrategy are selling now. Which they always said that they could do, certain levels that if they need to sell their Bitcoin, they might sell a few of their Bitcoin. But it doesn't change their strategy. But what it could have done, it could have, in a way, injected a little bit of, panic in the markets, and it could be responsible for part of the current move that we've seen here. This recent drop from 74,000 to where we are right now. So that's the one thing that we need to acknowledge. So if you see here, I'm just looking at the mm, the problem is that there are so many interest in around this and trying to push crypto down, because obviously there are lots of established established investor advisors that they feel threatened by crypto in any form. But I can't find the article regarding Michael Saylor. But so the point is, like, any good news are pretty much like ignored and not reported, and any bad news are presented really badly. So that causes panic in the markets sometimes if you're not following this closely on a daily basis. And also there is another other part of news. Let me think. So one thing that's interesting to notice is that hedge funds have been selling Bitcoin ETF holdings by almost like 40% in the first quarter, while banks more than double their exposure. So we are moving from a what is called like a trader type of support for Bitcoin. So support from entities that are trying to make a quick buck out of cryptocurrencies into the mainstream. So the fact that the banks are double their exposure, that means as well that there is more demand from their customers towards cryptocurrency. And that is a slower type of demand, where the hedge funds can move their funds very, very quickly, from one place to another, wherever they can see that the next profit is coming. So they're not into just holding long-term positions if there is nothing in it for them. But although it is something that in the short term it causes havoc in the markets, but at the same time it can be a good news because this is being replaced by more stable investors in a way. They are in it for the long term rather than the short term gain. Now, a few bits of news that are interesting to show. So again, just little bits, let's say little bits of things that bring cryptocurrency into the mainstream. Now, Coinbase now has announced that Bitcoin can be used as collateral for mortgages. So we could see the first, I mean, they've been a very, very niche product until now, but the fact that the Coinbase gets involved in this, it means that it will be available to a lot more people. So now they're launching these services using basically Bitcoin and also USDC as collateral for mortgage down payments. And this is basically a big step that can integrate digital assets into then home financing. So this may not be a big deal maybe to kind of to anybody that got into the crypto market in the last 4 or 5 years, for example. But for some of the early adopters that bought into Bitcoin and Ethereum when there were only a few dollars or a few $100, this can be a big deal because it means that they can start living their life and using the gains that they've accumulated in their life without having to sell their holdings. So they can use Bitcoin as collateral, so the Bitcoin doesn't get sold, but they can still buy their dream home, for example. Okay, and then get a mortgage in that way, which is kind of the best of both worlds, because then, you're thinking, well, if they want to hold Bitcoin for the long term, they can still have the benefit of that value that has accumulated in the price of Bitcoin until, from when they bought it until now. Now, another thing that we've been discussing over the past few weeks is the Clarity Act. Now, finally, the Clarity Act has now moved into the proper on the floor of the Senate calendar. Now, as it passed, like we discussed before in May, they went through the banking committee. So that's with support from both Democrats and Republicans. Now it's then on the main Senate for the final approval or rejection. The big discussion point, the dispute, is about stablecoin yields. Obviously, the financial sector and the banking sector in particular they don't want stablecoin providers to be able to offer yield to people just for holding USDC or USDT, for example, because that would be indirect competition for for bank deposits. And thus they argue that creates risk because they, the stable coin issuers don't have to adhere to the same rules as the as banks do. Now, I mean, I don't know what you think about it. I see this being a little bit of a Uber moment in the financial system. So the same kind of discussion was had in London, for example, when as the famous, black cabs on the street in London, they go through a really difficult exam process to get their license, and then Uber basically came along, with the ability to take a lot of their traffic without having to take any exams, just simply to have an app on the cab that can take bookings from people. So so we could be at the end of the day, you're thinking, what brings more value to the user? So it is something that we looking maybe we are looking at the moment where there is the first possibility of bypassing the banking system altogether because um, do we need the banks because they are offering a service to us, or can we get the same thing that we would get normally from banks from a different setup? So by holding our funds, for example, in our wallet, so we got like way before everything, obviously when cash was mainly physical, you needed somewhere to keep it safe, and this is what one of the main functions that the banks would do the service they would offer. They would keep your cash safe for you and pay you also some interest in the process. Well, now that everything is digital, do we still need, a bank to keep our money safe when we got our own way of keeping it safe? We got our own like cold storage wallets and stuff like that. So we could be our own bank. So this fact that of having almost like a monopoly on the management of money that the banks have, does it make sense in the modern world? And so this is a big discussion that is going on because it will determine where, you know, companies like Coinbase or even Tether or Circle, the manage USDC, you know, if they're going to be able to provide yield to the holder, and that would be like a game changer because it means that you know, you can have control of your own money in your wallet, earn yield, directly in your wallet simply for having stable coins. And I know that there are like conflicting interests because from one side of the banking sector is against it. But when you think about the US, this is actually very bullish for the dollar because if people are able to hold stable coins and earn yield, it's an extra reason for holding dollars. And at the moment, if you look at the stable coins market, over 95% is denominated in US dollars. There are stable coins in euros, and there are stable coins in yen and other different currency, but they have really a tiny, tiny market cap compared to the dollar. So from the US point of view, the fact that the stable coins are incentivized, it's a good thing. But obviously, from the banking sector, for the banking sector, it's not because it takes deposits away from the bank, takes the ability to earn away from them. So this is why they're fighting it tooth and nail. And obviously, a lot of these senators have been financed directly. And this is the system in the US to get elected, which causes problem in itself because you have to marry yourself to certain causes in a way to get enough financial support to be able to be elected. And so there is a big fight going on at the moment on the Senate to see first of all, if it can get passed, and exactly what compromises will be reached to make it pass if it does. So also, what we're looking at, one other thing that's being discussed, it's how the rules for decentralized finance will be applied, and who's the oversight authority. The oversight authority is the SEC or the Commodity Futures Trading Commission, or both of them. So we'll see. Again, this needs to be all this needs to be clarified in the Clarity Act. But when it passes through, we'll have a much clearer idea what the crypto environment looks like, because the US obviously dominates, and probably that would then determine how also the rest of the world tend to treat crypto as well. Couple more things. So actually, I think the last thing I wanted to share with you. Let's have a look. It's Zcash. So there was a vulnerability that was found in Orchard's shielded pool, which is part of Zcash, is one of the apps available on Zcash, and potentially this vulnerability could have allowed attackers to create unlimited fake Zcash. Okay, now this bug was actually discovered on the 29th of May and patched directly on the 1st of June. But even if it was this theoretical, no, apparently there's been no breach, so it hasn't been used to mint Zcash. Just the theoretical idea that this is possible has caused a lot of, and this is what I'm saying, kind of like the problem with crypto sometimes, and venture capitalists. So as soon as they heard of this, quite a few venture capitalists got out on Zcash, causing a crash of over 30%. Okay, and this is like the difference. I think, why does decentralization sometimes matter or doesn't matter? Because you might find yourself invested in a particular opportunity. You got no idea that there are big players owning big chunks of this particular coin, and they might be exiting before you realize, and you find yourself with actually a big hole in your holdings. Okay, and this is why, you know, Zcash has taken a lot of interest because of its um, um, security stance. But at the same time, this could have been used as a vulnerability, because there's no way, because of the way that this shielded pool was created, there is no way of understanding if there had been um, 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 actual if there be any Zcash being generated through through this vulnerability that's been found. So it's caused that this privacy design has actually created a new challenge. We're going to think, well, yes, privacy is good, but if we can see if something has gone wrong, it also causes a problem in itself. So they say the network cannot definitely prove that no one used this vulnerability. And obviously this has become like a big problem for investors. Like, if you don't know what's going on, do you want to hold these coins or not? And and this can also is one of the issues, I think, that could have caused, the overall drops in the markets. If we look at um, the Bitcoin ETFs, for example, there's been a big outflow, as you can see here, for the past almost like 10 days, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 days in a row. And this week we had a little bit of green coming back in yesterday, but it's been like tiny compared to the outflows that we've seen on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. That kind of like well over 1.5 billion came out of Bitcoin ETFs. So there's lots of panic hitting the markets. if we see the fear and greed index, moved well into extreme fear. So last week we were at about 25, roughly. Now we're going back into like 13. So guys, as I said, as usual, in periods of extreme fear, there are also opportunities because it's like buy when people are fearful and sell when people are greedy. Now, the only thing, so if you have got funds that you're thinking of investing in crypto, I would kind of watch this very closely because we might have, a substantial low that is created over the next, the next few days or maybe even hours. Who knows? Who knows what can push the prices down? But definitely we have a very important level at the moment that's being defended, which is this 60,000 level. Okay, so if we were to move below 60,000, we will probably have like a cascading of liquidations that we already seen during this drop, but it probably would accelerate below this level. So be ready for anything until now, from now, we could drop all the way down to the 40s, and at the same time, there is a possibility that we could turn around here. I don't see where the kind of excitement would pop in right now, and if there was money sitting on the side ready to buy Bitcoin, I will say probably sitting at a lower level than this. But at the same time, we have, the last time we were at this level, we went up by 30%. So it's also it does also have some attractiveness, and this is probably why we have seen today's prices. They're already gone up by about $1,500 even after this huge drop. So somebody is seeing the potential occasion of buying right now, and we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. So the only thing I can say, just follow the markets and see what and see which ones of these levels maybe breach first. At the moment, in the very short term, I'm looking at these two levels here. So the 60,000 and above it to get the first indication that we may be moving higher is about 65,000. Okay, so as I said, we'll revisit this a week from now and see what happened to it, but that's what I would be considering right now. Okay, anybody wanted to um, participate or think with their point of view or questions or anything? Guys, any questions? No? Okay, then
Bit of watch and see there, Luca.
sorry.
I said it's a bit of watch and see because everything's just around us is so dynamic at the moment.
Yeah, that's exactly that. So the point is like where are you sitting right now? So it's looking at your portfolio in a way. If you're already invested in crypto, definitely I wouldn't say, at the moment, I think it's gone too far down to kind of sell and hope to buy back. So so far, if you're sitting in crypto, probably just like green and bear it and wait for it to turn around. But if you're not, if you got funds on the side, definitely there will be an opportunity to get a good asset at a discounted price. Okay, so if there are no more questions, I'll probably ask, Jonathan, have you followed the recent? So we just want to do like a Cardano update with all the drama in the community at the moment. So there are a lot of, obviously people are feeling the pain, in Cardano like in anything else. But there seems to be a lot of vitriol in, especially against the Cardano founder. and anything he says is just like amplified to the nth degree and causes mayhem in the market. Do you want to, you know,
The
update us?
yeah, the vitriol doesn't seem to be going away. So anytime Charles says anything, he gets push back, fight back. And Charles is a very vocal individual, so he'll say what's on his mind. He's not shielded at all. He doesn't, reserve his thoughts for himself. And that in particular is what I like about him, because he doesn't come across as a normal, sly, savvy, polished media operator. He's just this is facts as I see them. And yeah, people don't seem to like that at all. And there's a lot of sort of historic uh, suspicion that was raised over the last couple of years around the integrity of the launch of Cardano and the generation of the Origin ADA, and the rumors have been going on for years, and then there was a prolonged social media, Twitter essentially, attack from a few disgruntled community members who just wanted to bring it all down, as far as I can see. And so they pressed and pressed, and in the end, Charles said, "Okay, well, let's have an external audit from I can't remember which firm did it, but it was a big, serious legal audit firm, and they came in and assessed the full token generation events, the voucher sale, as it was, for pre-token generation, and was found completely, no wrongdoing whatsoever. In fact, IOG had gone over and above their normal behavior in terms of making sure that everyone who pre-bought ADA got their tokens to, I think it was like 99% or something, got the tokens direct. And then there's still 1% remaining who have never claimed, never come back to exchange their voucher for ADA. They've either lost their keys, in which case the team have been phoning and emailing and writing, trying to track down people. And there's still this 1% outstanding, or I don't even know how much it is left, waiting to be distributed. But that's got, no impact on the rest of the scene altogether. But the fact that the community were suspicious, Charles had to do this big investigation, has still left this sort of lingering bad media out there. And so it gets picked up and pressed in on Charles all the time, which is, for him, I mean, he must be so distressed by it, because he's worked so hard. He invented Cardano. Like, this multi-billion-dollar asset is his. I mean, it's his brainchild, and yet the few token holders who are in the fringes of his community are shouting and raving and causing all this problem. Financial distress is pretty bad. So he posted another video last night. He's saying he's not going anywhere. So he had a rant on YouTube saying, "I'm here. I invented it. I handed over the keys to the kingdom to you, because that was my vision for having a decentralized asset that everybody that held it had a say in how it would be managed and how it would be developed. And I'm not going anywhere." So I suspect that what he might do is become a delegated representative himself, in which case he would be able to use his ADA to vote in governance. He's always said he wouldn't, because he didn't want to put his hand on the scale, he called it. So that would be influencing how decisions were made in the ecosystem. And he said that was the job of Cardano Foundation. But he made a whole load of mistakes in setting up Cardano Foundation, and now it's a Swiss-owned, regulated entity that has a board assigned independently of anybody in the ecosystem. So he doesn't feel he's got any control there. He doesn't have any control there. And they're not operating in the way he would want them to. And they are voting heavily in Cardano governance. And he's at odds with them a lot of the time as well. They have pulled together this year to do a whole lot of really great things, like bringing in USDC Circle to Cardano. So now we've got Circle, the US a top tier stablecoin on Cardano. And they've delivered a whole load of other benefits to this ecosystem, but there's still that tension between Cardano Foundation and IOG, two of the founding entities. So that lingers bad news as well. And And so I think what Charles will do to counteract that now is to say, okay, I've stayed out of governance. Now I'm going to actually get involved. I think that'll probably come out in the next 6 months or so. And then he'll start pushing back and voting for his proposals and the way he thinks the direction should go. And he's always argued for we need some kind of executive function in Cardano. Even if we've got all this governance, all this decentralized governance, we need some voted in body that will actually drive the direction, the roadmap of Cardano, and that's never happened.
The point is like if he doesn't use his voting power, and I say there are other entities that go like big chunks of voting power, then they use it. That means there will still be one entity that does that. So it's almost like giving everything the keys of the kingdom, not to the community, but to the other big entity. So it needs in a way to be counterbalanced, Otherwise you're just giving this unelected Cardano Foundation in a way that then determines what happens in Cardano. And as we've seen, like the first examples where the money is being given to VCs rather than to, projects on the ground, which is not what was intended anyway, and using their voting power to make sure that that happens. So it's in a way kind of like having Charles taking part would restore some justice in a way to the way that the governance works. And at the end of the day, he is one of the token holders, so he's got the right to do it if he wants to.
Absolutely, he designed the system that way that any holder can get involved. And the other the third founding entity is Emurgo, which is again a big player. Haven't done an awful lot historically, but they are involved and they are a big ADA holder, so they are voting. And in fact, they're in charge of one of the largest wallets on Cardano, Yoroi, and they have a holder of the Genesis ADA, so they got a very high voting power as well. And so in that combination, they're as an equal voice as Cardano Foundation and as Charles. So I think down the road that would probably be a more balanced setup to have these three big founding entities still involved, playing their part in governance. You've got Emurgo, which is, in my mind, I kind of think of it as being Asian-based. A lot of Japanese, those people who bought the original voucher scheme are very invested in Emurgo and the way they operate. You've got Cardano Foundation, which is European. So then you've got the European voice. And then you have Charles in Wyoming, Colorado, being the American voice. And that, there's very different cultures in each of those areas of the world, very different opinions on how humanity should run. And I think we need equally strong voices from each of them to actually get some kind of equity and outcome. And so, yeah, I think that would be a good thing to do. And so, even though Charles is ranting and raving on his streams and his socials, he's now said he's going to he's getting off Twitter for a while. He's going to reset, unclog his ears. And he came from ranting on YouTube into a call with the Midnight Ambassador program, which he does weekly at the moment. Spends a couple of hours just grassroots training, education around blockchain technologies, all the latest developments, so whether that's agentic AI and how that's involved in trading through to privacy enhancing technologies. He'll talk about anything and everything. And he's really upbeat, he's really positive, he's switched on, he's engaged. So, his public persona can be very, back against the wall, but in reality, he's very, very much pushing forward and excited still. And he feels he's in a safe space in the Discord server, speaking to his ambassadors. So he relaxes and, we have some really productive conversations. So, yeah, ultimately, we're playing in a bigger market, where crypto goes, Cardano goes as well, in the short term. But long term, I think we've still got significant things coming into the ecosystem, with Midnight driving forward as probably the premier Cardano native token. We've got ADA itself, still in the top 20. Technologies being innovated on and coming in hard. We've got. I was at a UK meetup this month, and one of the teams from Laos, which is the scalability layer for Cardano, he's from IOG. He came along and had a quick word, quick Q&A, and it's really happening. I was kind of skeptical it won't happen this year, but it's really happening this year. They're being pushed hard to get this out the door. So there is a big upgrade coming to Cardano. We've got a hard fork being voted on pre-production at the moment, which will mean that technology could go into the hard fork after this next one. And so that all the stateful operators are upgrading their nodes to 11, and that will mean that we can run this first hard fork, and then one after that we'll actually potentially bring in Laos, which is huge, very exciting, because we're talking about suddenly having 40 times the speed of a network than we do currently. And
Yeah, and
even
that
though
would bring Cardano on that kind of similar level to the fastest blockchains on that.
we're then sort of pushing up with Hyperliquid, Sui, Solana, all these hyped coins at the moment. So that'd be very cool. It's hard to see the need for it at the moment because we're trundling along at 10% of chain capacity, but
Yeah.
when it does come, it will come hard. So watching Bitcoin is very, very useful. Thanks for that analysis, Luca. Well, it's good to keep an eye on it. I think Cardano will bounce back at pace when Bitcoin breaks its high again.
Definitely, yeah. For those of you that kind of haven't bought into Cardano yet, there's an opportunity of buying at 2021 prices, really.
Crazy
So
cheap.
it's kind of like it's great level to buy at. So think about it. Don't say anything. No financial advice,
No
but
financial
just
advice.
consider it because I don't think it's gonna stay at that level for long. Okay. Anyway, guys, so we've kind of gone past 10 o'clock here, so time to wrap up. So lovely to share the platform with you guys as usual, and look forward to catching up again next week, and catching up with you, Jonathan, a little bit later, and we'll keep watching the market, and especially in a few hours' time. When there is the non-farm payroll in about 4.5 hours, watch the market, because it could influence if there is a reading that's considerably different from what's expected, it would affect all markets, so there would be a very quick adjustment. And if anything happens and you see, what happens around that time, things actually accelerate or turn around and go in the other direction, that's probably down to that. Okay, so enjoy, be a student and an observer, and be ready to deploy if you got funds sitting on the side ready to go. All right.
Thank you.
So have a great weekend, everyone, and I'll see you
Thank
next week.
you. Have a nice weekend.
Bye.